Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Alcini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. I am Julie Ann Mejia, and you're watching episode 17 of The Holistic Alternative. Today's guest is a brilliant scientist and educator who's making waves in both the cannabis and medical worlds. With over 20 years of experience in research and pharmacology, he's helped lead the way in cancer studies, cannabis testing, and cutting-edge education programs across the country. He currently serves as Program Director of Medical Cannabis Therapeutics at Morehouse School of Medicine and teaches at St. Louis University, bringing plant medicine into the classroom and empowering the next generation of healers. From lab work to legislation, his mission is clear: to educate, elevate, and expand access to safe, science-backed cannabis therapies. It is my true honor to welcome Dr. Hemant Kumar Bid to the show. Dr. Bid, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you, Julie, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and excited to have that conversation with you guys.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk with you. There's a lot to talk about today. So most people are going to ask this question, and I always like to start out with a background and a history of how people started working with cannabis or cannabinoid therapies.
Sure. It's a very interesting journey actually in my life. And as coming from India, that as you guys know that, like it's a big Ayurvedic hub all over the world. So, like India is really big in Ayurveda. So plant medicine is a part of my upbringing. And after finishing up my Ph.D., I worked with a organization as a scientist and a faculty member that where I worked with a lot of different natural product chemistry department and the chemist, that where we isolate a lot of different synthetic cannabinoids, etc., and where my journey started. And I've been kind of exposed with medical cannabis, and India have been using from decades, as history tells. So it was a great opportunity for me to start my research in that area and my focus. And there that testing various different cannabinoids in a various different cancer models was fun and take my interest. And I started my journey from there and moved back to United States and continue my journey in cancer research with using a lot of different various different molecules, small molecules, peptides, monoclonal antibodies, and natural products, example, medical cannabis. And I continue my journey as an educator, and I continue my journey to utilize my cancer research and as well as my pharmacology background, and serve as a director of Cannabis Testing Lab in Columbus, Ohio. And after that I joined as a program director for biotechnology master's program at Morehouse School of Medicine, and where I got the opportunity to establish the master's program for medical cannabis, which is master's in biotechnology concentration in medical cannabis. So it was a fun ride, and that's the way that it started. And I think that we are in a right path with the education in nationwide and globally, and looking forward to talk more about the cannabis education in this show.
That's excellent. That's so amazing. Education services in our sector are slim to none. So for you to first of all, go from the traditional sector and develop a master's program in cannabinoid science. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I think that, like it's really important because coming from where I'm coming from, a clinical background that where we work for to develop so many different drugs, and especially that, as you know, that, like development of drug is a long process. Now it's not because of the AI that, like it is kind of like cutting a lot of time, but definitely that time that when I started my journey, it was a long process coming from the laboratory to preclinical model to go to the clinical side, and then after that and the clinical research, and then finally safety talks, pharmacology, etc. It's a long process, but the one of the beauty of medical cannabis, I think that, like which kind of like always excites me, that this is the plant that where so many cannabinoids are there, and rather than to go from the laboratory, we are collecting from the decades the use of medical cannabis on human directly. So we have the supportive data on humans, right? And then on top of that, taking that supporting data and then use the mouse models, use the preclinical models, use the guinea pig models to just to make sure the safety and efficacy with good and quality extraction models and testing processes and standardization. I think that makes a big difference because it is in the forefront to as a supportive medicines, and we definitely can't beat the clinical medicine, but I think the merger of the clinical medicines with the naturopathic medicines makes such a big difference in patients' quality of life, as well as the reducing the disease progression or the betterment of the disease.
No, and I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And in particular, in regards to the safety of cannabis, I mean, the safety protocol or profile, I should say, of cannabinoid therapies have been used successfully, safely for thousands of years without overdose or death. So, I think it's definitely time as a human society to go back to our ancestral roots where we're using plant-based medicines as they were intended to be consumed. So that's
Definitely, I think, yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's not only medical cannabis. I think that there are combination of so many different plant-based medication with medical cannabis is also coming in a forefront, which kind of like, like it's a really great thing. But, like from last at least 50 years, the kind of research we are seeing, and especially that, like one of the biggest thing that, like which we are seeing that coming a really big wave is that, like before in decades back that we were using the medical cannabis, but we were not aware of that how medical cannabis specially works in our body and what happened. So but now that, like science have proven again and again that the interaction of phytocannabinoids with endocannabinoid system, which is one of the unique system in our body, that interaction gives the medical benefit. It's a simple explanation of medical cannabis. But if you see the literature, scientific literature, then there are so much data and so much research and so much review articles on endocannabinoid system itself. It's like an ocean, and the research is like never ending. So now we are exploring more about the endocannabinoid system. What are the receptors? What are the molecules? Why these receptors are there? How they work with our system is really a very critical thing. And I think that now that, like having understanding of cannabis application along with its safety, as you mentioned, and also that, not only safety, but pharmacology toxicity is also a very crucial thing, because the molecules itself has effect on our cytochrome P450, which is a liver metabolizing enzymes. So I think that, that's why that when I started actually developing the course at St. Louis University for MDs and Pharma D and nurse practitioner, it was a really successful course because everybody need to understand about that what are the different resources they can use to understand that where are the drug-drug interaction. For example, that, like there's a blood thinners, that warfarin, that which is like a very good interaction with CBD, and CBD act as the inhibitor of cytochrome P450. So if that understanding is there, that we can kind of like, save a lot of, like adverse effect on the patients. But along with that, that one of the important thing that, everybody need to understand that medical cannabis is the safest plant I have ever seen. There's a no death. There's literally no death. So that's the most important part. And another thing is that being working in the field of cancer biology for such a long time, that we are always looking for a very specific molecules that, like which can treat the cancer cells, but which can nurture the normal cells. And modern medicine is basically cannot differentiate between the normal cells with the cancer cells as we talk about chemotherapy or radiotherapy. But medical cannabis specifically kills the cancer cells if it is treated in a right time, because it's really important that sooner the diagnosis, better the prognosis. And along with that, like one of the uniqueness of medical cannabis is that it is preventive as well as therapeutic. So preventive means that even if somebody is using medical cannabis a small amount, and be aware of that, it can nurture your nerve cells, it can nurture your body, it can nurture your immune cells because of the presence of endocannabinoid receptors, which is CB1 and CB2, all over your body, every organ in your body. So that's really important for everyone to know that these receptors makes a lot of miracle in our body, because the medical cannabis, when you are consuming it, they interact with those receptors to do what they need to do. So it's really important to see that, like how it is very specific for cancer cells, but it's nurture the normal cells and don't disturb them.
No, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. From your point, how do we as, educators, I worked in traditional medicine. It was frowned upon to talk about it when I was in school. Um, as far as I know, there's still only a handful of medical programs teaching about the endocannabinoid system, which is a crucial part of the body because, again, thousands of years of development to process cannabinoids, and our bodies actually make them. They should be taught everywhere. So as someone that's an educator like yourself at a master's level teaching these things, how do we get the rest of the medical community on board in other schools to teach this as a normality?
Yeah, I think that that's a very important question and very good question, actually, because we all are kind of struggling with that. And I think that so far that most of the clinicians agreed that who are very actively involved in medical cannabis and they understand the value of medical cannabis, that without understanding the endocannabinoid system, it's very hard to treat the patient. And it should be incorporated in the medical curriculum for the clinicians to understand. And I think that, like clinicians to understand the naturopathic medicine is also a big wave which is coming, because patients are gearing towards that. They understand that modern medicines have a lot of side effects. So why not we can be supplemented with the naturopathic medicine. So endocannabinoid system or endocannabinoid education is really very complex. And in nationwide, there are not many master's program exist. University of Maryland has a phenomenal master's program there. But if you see that now that from last 10 to 15 years, I can see that there are a lot of different education system, either in community colleges or either it is certifications related to cannabis extraction, CBD, or either endocannabinoid system or safety of medical cannabis, etc., are everywhere, along with cultivation, along with like harvest, etc. So, and there are a lot of colleges are there, where one of the college that I started my journey was Cleveland School of Cannabis in Ohio, that where they provide a lot of certifications. So I see that there are a lot of like education institutes are in the forefront. And along with that, as you mentioned, that St. Louis University has a program, and I teach at Bale University. Recently I joined as an adjunct faculty. So they started a program. Along with that, I also teach as an Olive Harvey Community College as an adjunct faculty. Their program is phenomenal. And College of DuPage, which is nation's top 3 horticulture college, I serve as an adjunct faculty there to teach medical cannabis applications. So I think that like by saying that there are a lot of organizations and education that they are recognizing the value of medical cannabis education, and they are creating the courses, and creating the courses with a good educators that who are really invested in the field, because that's really important. Because one of the biggest challenge before that we had with medical cannabis is because there are people that they are trying to kind of like get a lot of information from blogs, etc. But I believe, as a coming from a scientific background, that whatever we are publishing, whatever we are teaching, it need to be scientifically back up, clinically back up. So that's really important. So based on the giving the reference of clinical and scientific research and creating a curriculum which is a very important aspect of clinical studies or research studies, that we are bringing this to the table. I think that it's a really, really important for the consumers, important for the teachers and educators.
No, I think that's a wonderful point that you brought up. And, furthermore, I think as a society working in the traditional allopathic model, I would love to see the integration, of naturalized medicine working together with westernized medicine. Because again, I never understood working in traditional medicine, the allopathic model, why we were going to synthetics first. We should probably exhaust all the natural stuff before trying something synthetic, as the body's not always meant to process that as correctly as something naturalized.
No, definitely that's a good point, and I would say that like that is happening already started. It's happening, so that's a great start for all of us. And I'm just giving you example that being working in a field of cancer biology for such a long time, that I understand that there are so many challenges are there to treat cancer, because cancer is a multifactorial and polygenic disease. That means there are so many factors that we know, but we don't know exactly what factor is causing the cancer. And polygenic means it's the genetic factors also, there multiple genes are responsible for that. But if you think about medical cannabis, so it is valuable for the cancer patient, because if you are treating with medical cannabis in a very early stage, it could be a anti-cancer activity. But along with that, it's not a magic. Medical cannabis is not a magical drug, but it can help a lot in various different aspects, especially side effect of the drug, or either reduce the progression of the disease. For example, in cancer, that after the chemotherapy, one of the biggest issue with the patients is nausea, vomiting. So nausea and vomiting can be easily controlled with medical cannabis supportive medicine to cancer patients. Along with that, the cancer patients, like when a patient is hearing about that he is suffering from a cancer, that like his anxiety is really high, because it's not a easy disease to cure. And then he is depressed because he has cancer and he cannot sleep. But medical cannabis can help reduce the depression and anxiety, increase the better sleep for the patients. And along with that, chemotherapy kills their appetite, and medical cannabis help to boost their appetite. And along with that, there is one of the biggest side effects is cancer cachexia and anorexia, and it can actually manage cancer cachexia and anorexia. So it is important to understand that like medical cannabis has a lot of applications, and definitely we need to kind of utilize that, a amazing drug. And along with that, that not only the cannabinoids, that now that we have so much research on the cannabinoids as well as terpenes and flavonoids, which are existing in the plant, which is really, really critical. And the cannabinoids worked so good with terpenes and flavonoids, that it is called entourage effect, because they all work as a great team. And there are so much research has been already done, that it is amazing to have that knowledge out there, where we have so many terpenes. And again, terpenes has been out there for a long time, and we know a lot of things about terpenes. But you think about that then why we are talking about cannabis terpene? Because cannabis is a unique plant that where we can find all different kind of cannabinoids, more than 200 cannabinoids. Along with that, so much terpenes and flavonoids are all together. So nature put them together for a reason. And it is amazing that we have so much different terpene that which can help and boost the activity of various different cannabinoids. Either it is myrcene, pinene, beta caryophyllene, which has a great anti-COVID activity, has been published. So it is amazing that the plant has so many different constituents that which is helpful for so many different disorders.
No, I couldn't agree more. The synergy of everything working in conjunction as it was meant to be consumed, there's nothing else like it. This really truly balances the body into homeostasis, where everything is just balanced correctly. So a lot of times that's the missing piece for a lot of people, because society, we used to have these consumed in our food and had more accessibility to them, but because of prohibition, that stopped a lot of things and access to them. So
Yeah.
people develop different disorders, I believe, as a
No,
result.
I think that, like that's a good point, that what you mentioned. And one of the things that, like I would like to mention here for the listeners, that what you mentioned and brought the point that, like about the endocannabinoid system and homeostasis, because that's a scientific term which is called balance. So endocannabinoid system, its role is to basically maintain the homeostasis in our body. So this is one of the system which is present like other systems in our body. Either it is circulatory system, respiratory system, or either it is nervous system, reproductive system, etc. Endocannabinoid system is one of the system in our body. And I always explain in a very simplified way that endocannabinoid system is a machine. Basically, our body is a machine, and this has a different parts. And all these parts are the circulatory system, nervous system, respiratory system, etc., endocannabinoid system, and they all play as a good team player together to maintain the homeostasis in our body. So now the question comes here that if our body already has endocannabinoid system, and I just explained that its role is to maintain the homeostasis, then listeners can kind of like start thinking that, okay, if it is already there, then why we are talking about to taking medical cannabis? Because we already have endocannabinoid system. But again, body is a very controlled machine. It's a very controlled machinery. So that means every system has the ability to release a very specific amount of molecules in our body because they need to maintain the homeostasis. So if there is a foreign attack of any antigen or any viruses in our body, so body immediately start releasing endocannabinoids, which is anandamide and 2-AG, to maintain the homeostasis. But let's say that, like it takes 100 molecules of endocannabinoids, but body said that, I can only release 50 because I have to maintain the homeostasis. That here our medical cannabis plant comes very handy, because all these molecules in the plant, CBD, THC, CBN, CBG, etc., they all play very important role and similar to our endocannabinoids in this body. So then we take help from the plant and get the 50 more molecules and kind of try to find the balance and fight with the foreign disorders. So that's how this thing works. So that's why that we need medical cannabis in spite of that having that amazing system in our body, because endocannabinoids is such an amazing system in our body where these receptors are present in every organ in our body. Either it is liver, either it is a circulatory system, our immune cells, either bone, any places. And that's why medical cannabis has so much application in every kind of disorders, either it is skin disorders, brain disorders, cancer, etc. So that's how that it is so valuable.
And that's perfectly put. I really appreciate you explaining that to the viewers. I'd love to talk with you a little bit about how difficult it's been in your career since you started looking into cannabis. Because, when I started doing research in the 2000s, even back in 2007, before I graduated, it was nearly impossible not only to do and work and research cannabinoids, but just plants in general were very difficult for the board to push through for, for research. How has your experience been recently with trying to do research in regards to cannabinoid therapies?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I can tell you that, like I had the similar experience, because when I started actually cannabis journey and started researching, that was one of the challenge that time, that where that, like you can only find CBD or somewhere THC, that's it, because of the limitation of the advancement of various different extraction technology. And now slowly from last 20 years that we came up with a lot of different extraction technologies which can help. And why we are talking about the extraction technology? Because we wanted to extract a lot of different cannabinoids, and in a various different purified form. So cannabis extraction, like it's really amazing for me to see that, like the amount of various different extraction technologies are out there which can help that, like extract various different cannabinoids and terpenes and either it is a solvent based or solvent less. But slowly we are moving towards the solvent based cannabis extraction, because then there are very less residual solvent. During my stay as a scientific director in the cannabis testing lab in Columbus, Ohio, it was a phenomenal journey for me, because having seen that various different testing models and various different extraction models helps a lot to provide the customers a very safe and effective actually formulations and the product in the market. But definitely that from last 10 years, when I see that because of the availability of various different extraction technology, it makes the things possible. But along with that, because of the availability and the application of very advanced gene editing technology in the field of agriculture, in the field of cannabis agriculture, cannabis geneticists create a lot of hybrid plants. As we are humans, we are scientists, we are always curious about the minor cannabinoids like TSCA, TSCV, CBDV, etc. And TSCV is a skinny weed which actually kill the appetite, and people are using it, and there is a lot of impactful outcome is there. So how come we are going to get those ones without help of the hybrid plants? And agriculture geneticists, they are using the CRISPR-Cas technology, which is a gene editing technology, got the Nobel Prize also. Now we are using that, creating the hybrid plant, getting all the minor cannabinoids in a bigger amount, so that scientists can do more and more scientific research and get to know that what are the different exploration of the various different cannabinoids together, so that we can create a very good formulation for the patients as per their needs.
That's amazing. And I think you brought up a crucial point that many individuals like myself who have invented patent pending rare minor cannabinoid formulations and extraction processes um, have a plight within our industry. I will bring the same sample to 2 or 3 different labs and get 3 different results. So, to your point, how do we as an industry sort of find a balance and a standardization for testing? Because what I've seen personally and what my community tells me as well, I hear about everything in the community, is that there is no consistency amongst the labs. So someone that has worked in that setting, how do we bridge that big gap? Because there is a huge one.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And being a cannabis testing lab, it's kind of like I see a big kind of like a gap within the industry, that's for sure. And I think that there are two major big topics that which people are not talking that much. And we should talk a lot, we should do research a lot about cannabis testing and endocannabinoid system, because these are the two, I think, that very crucial factors which play a very important role to create or maintain the consistency and efficacy and efficiency of the good product in the market. So standardization is now that is evolve, and cannabis testing also evolve a lot. California is one of the states, as you know, that they are doing a phenomenal job with their criteria in the testing. And for the listeners, that when we talk about the cannabinoid testing, it is basically testing to make sure that every product is safe. And
Right.
how we can do the safety, because safety and efficacy is the most important thing. So first, that we use the HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, to understand and to provide a very accurate value of the cannabinoids, how much CBD is there, how much THC is there, etc. But along with that, that we use GC-MS, where we can find out that how much terpenes and which terpenes are there in that product. And but also test that, because extraction technology, there are a lot of labs that we use the solvents, various different solvents. So every state has a certain limit of the solvents, and your product need to be under that limit to pass your product to go to the market. And pesticides, because plants grow, and then users, the cultivation facilities, they use the various different pesticides. So we have to test for pesticides, mycotoxins, and like heavy metals which is come from the ground also. And there are a lot of different bacterial and mold, mildew, etc., because like moisture and water percentage creates a lot of different mold and mildew, which is not good for anyone. So these things are need to be checked out, need to be tested very well. So I think the testing plays a very, very important role to ensure that the product safety, along with that the efficacy of the product. Because as a clinician, that every doctor, every nurse practitioner, every pharma D, they need to know exactly that how much amount of cannabinoids are there in that product, so that they can treat the patients according to their needs. But if the things are changing every time and the standardization is not there, then it is very difficult for them, because every time the patient get the product, and then he is going to come and back and complain to his primary physician that like, I'm not getting the response how I used to get it. So what is the issue? And then to finding out those issues, it takes a long time, and ultimately who is the sufferer? The patient. So that's the most important thing. And ultimately, that we are, whatever we are doing, either in the clinical side, either in the research side, everything is for patients well-being and patient safety.
And to your point, I think, the market unfortunately doesn't have a lot of consistency. To your point, a lot of patients will work with a provider and say, hey, this product would suit your needs based upon the cannabinoid profile, but it's not there in the dispensary next month. So how do we help patients in a capacity that is more consistent?
Yeah,
That's
so
a
I
big
think that
question.
like it is such a great point that you mentioned, because I always talk about that as I talked just now, that about the hybrid plants, right? So as a human, as a scientist, that we are always curious, and we are using a very advanced gene editing technology to edit the genes, overexpress the genes, because cannabis genome is also cracked down. So now that if I wanted to know about the TSCB, or like CBDV, and what is their role, and how they are very beneficial for various different disorders, I need the plant material. So okay, we create the hybrid plant, but that's the advantage, that we get to know about the various different function of CBDV, or like CBGV, but on the other hand, or CBDA. But on the other hand, the problem is that we are playing with the genetics of the plant, and once you touch the genetics, the plant is weak, their immune system is weak. So that means after 4 months or after 6 months, the plant is not going to survive. To your point, that when patients go there again after 6 months, that specific product is not there. So that's the big challenge. So it's kind of like really a very tricky space for all of us. And giving you example that like I work as a consultant for one of the companies in California, Essentia Scientific, which is really specifically focused on patients based data and research based data to create the formulation, the unique formulation using terpenes and flavonoids, etc. And that is really a really great approach. And we work with various different pharmaceutical industries, as well as the academic institute, to utilize that. Like we have a patented technology of extraction technology, where we leach out acidic cannabinoids with the help of water. So that means there's no solvent there. So of course it's kind of like really safe, and the accuracy is really great. So now we are kind of like doing a lot of interdisciplinary research and networking and collaborations to globally. We have partners in Rome, we have partners in various different labs in the United States, that where we are trying to figure it out, that what are the roles. Because before, there was not a very patented or really great technology, extraction technology there, which can extract the acidic cannabinoids. So this is just an example, but definitely that like I think that there are some models are coming slowly, where the doctors who are actively involved in medical cannabis practice, they are trying to figure it out, and they are trying to kind of like with dealing with a lot of different manufacturers, to trying to see that who is more reliable, who is giving me more consistent products, so that I can share those information with my patients, so that it will be more consistent. But definitely consistency of the purity and potency of the cannabis product is the big challenge in the market. So definitely it is a challenge, and slowly it will be not a challenge, because we are heading that direction, where we are trying to standardize all the processes, either it is extraction, either it is a cultivation, either it is a testing, etc. And states are doing more and more mandatory regulations there. So hopefully we will be there soon, but still we have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. No. And as long as this still remains scheduled as it is, it makes it impossible to do what we need to do as scientists. So I'm hopeful that, rescheduling does happen in a way that's not only safe for educators and patients, but healers and people that are working with the products so that they remain accessible. So
No,
let's talk a little bit about, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, yeah,
I want to make sure we talk about your other patients and some of the groups that you service. Um, as we're getting down to the 40-minute line already, it's wild.
yeah.
How have you been working with the veteran community? I know there was a group that you've been working with. I'd love to hear a little bit about that and
Yeah.
the viewers
I
as
think
well.
that, like that's a very interesting point, and it's always touched my heart because, like I think that that's the area that I'm always interested from the beginning. And a couple of years ago, that I met with Gary and Mike, and they started a non-profit organization, Veterinary Alliance of Holistic Alternative, which is basically that non-profit organization in New Orleans, and we actually do a lot of like. A kind of like education series to various different VA hospitals, because medical cannabis has lot of application on PTSD veterans. So, but they are due to the regulations that not all the veterans are able to use medical cannabis for their PTSD. So definitely that's a lot of work need to be done there, because and from many years, veterans with PTSD use cannabis and believe that like it is basically like helping them with chronic pain, and along with that anxiety and depression, their basically like quality of life is better, and they've been self-medicated themselves. But because of their poor sleep and anxiety and distress of the PTSD, and along with that, like if you think about that there are lot of applications of medical cannabis in the field of PTSD veterans. But if they go through the proper channel, then they will be able to get better treatment also, and better products. And along with that like it's always like, again, every drug has a side effects. I never ever deny that, like, and I think that like it's all in scientific literature everywhere, that every drug has side effects. So definitely that medical cannabis also have a side effect, because there is a molecule is called delta 9 THC, tetrahydrocannabidiol, which has a psychoactive activity. So using medical cannabis as a caution, with a caution, is always a great thing to do. And that how that can be there, only because of the education. Because once you are educated and you understand that what are the applications, what are the advantage, what are the disadvantage, and what are the different symptoms which can give you the understanding that no, I started to help my sleep, to boost my immune appetite, and I started from 5 milligram, and now slowly I feel like that my body needs more. Okay, so I increase more, but the beauty of the medical cannabis is reversible. So if the doctors understand that, okay, patient A increased from 5 milligram to 50 milligram now, why not we can slowly cut that down to zero, so that his all the receptors are get emptied. And then after that, when they start, give a 2 weeks break and start again medical cannabis, the patient can be same sensitive for 5 milligram. And that's the beauty of medical cannabis, that you can go to and forth. And another beauty is it's a personalized medicine, because everybody has a different expression of endocannabinoid system. That means endocannabinoid receptors and secretion of various different molecules. So it's a kind of like a low and slow is the best way to go. The reason being is because maybe somebody needs only 1 milligram to boost their system, and somebody needs 5 milligram. But if we don't start from 1 milligram, then we can lose that window and we start from 5, which he don't need that. So it's
Right.
that's why it's always low and slow, so that patient don't get a bad experience but get full advantage of medical cannabis.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and for explaining that. Everyone, please start off low and go slow, because, again, taking too much can ruin your experience and overwhelm the body. So, Dr. Bid, thank you so much for being here today. If you guys would like to learn more about the work Dr. Bid is doing, about the master's program, please don't hesitate. Reach out and contact him. His email, his phone number is below. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and for the love and support now and always. We'll see you in a few weeks for another beautiful episode on USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
From the magical world of the amazing adventures of Lady Ella comes a heartwarming new journey filled with kindness, courage, and compassion. Lady Ella, the beloved ladybug and listening mentor, is back, and this time she is not alone. Meet her brave and thoughtful brother, Lord Jack. Together, they take flight on their very first kindness adventure. Along the way, they meet 3 new friends in need: a duck feeling discouraged, a mouse struggling to be understood, and a busy little bee who's completely lost. But with the power of elevated listening and simple acts of kindness, Lady Ella and Lord Jack show us how understanding and empathy can make the biggest difference in someone's day. Written by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, this 9th book in the best-selling Lady Ella series teaches children ages 5 to 10 the essential skills of listening, kindness, and etiquette. Now available for pre-order on Amazon. Scan the QR code and order your copy today.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.